Hi, in this video we're going to have a look at why merging in PowerQuery can be better than using VLOOKUPs in certain circumstances. So merging queries is basically the same as using VLOOKUPs in some ways. So it takes two queries, it takes two tables, and then using a key or a piece of information that's common in both datasets, it takes the information from one dataset and put it into the other. However, in some circumstances, using the merge query option can be much better than using a VLOOKUP. So let's have a look. So for our example in this video, what we're going to do is pretend that we need to allocate some costs that have come into our finance department, and we need to allocate those costs between some cost centers. Now over here on the left hand side of the screen, we've got some credit card information. We've got the date that some money was spent, we've got where the money was spent, how much was spent, and a reference. And the reference corresponds to some information which is on the right hand side of the screen in some payroll information. And that reference corresponds to a payroll number of the people that have got our credit cards. So we've got this credit card information, and what we want to do is put a cost center against each row, because then it's really easy for us to put in a journal, splitting the credit card information and putting it into each cost center. And for this example, this is a really easy thing to do. All we need to do is just use a VLOOKUP using the reference in the credit card information as a key, and then using the payroll number in the payroll information as the other set of the key in the VLOOKUP. However, where this gets more difficult is where our payroll information shows that our employees belong to more than one cost center. So let's have a look at our next tab. So here we go. Now in this example, we've got our payroll information on the right hand side, and we've got the same credit card information as we had in the previous tab. Now our payroll information this time shows that each of our employees belongs to more than one cost center. So for example, Gary Madison, he belongs to both cost center 10 and 20, and in a ratio of 10 to 90%. So that means that every time we get a cost in for this Gary Madison character, we need to then split the cost between those two cost centers in the required percentage. And that's actually a lot more difficult than it looks, because that means in order to do that for our credit card information, you'd need to go through each of the lines, then add in a line where necessary, and then you'd need to bring the cost center in as well as bring the percentage in. And that's really quite difficult because we can't use a VLOOKUP this time. So why can't we use a VLOOKUP? Let's have a look. Well, a VLOOKUP will only return the first item that it finds in the lookup table. So in our first row here, which has got the reference of 101, which is Gary Madison, then the VLOOKUP looks in the payroll table, and the first item that it finds that corresponds to the key 101 is the cost center 20. So that's the item that it returns, and it doesn't look any further. But that means that all of the cost in this case would be going to cost center 20, and that's not right, because cost center 20 should only be getting 10% of the cost. What we want then is a table which has got the credit card information and the payroll information combined, but shows all of the credit card information with all of the payroll information. Something like this. So what we've got here in our green table is the credit card information, but it's had each line duplicated, and each line has been duplicated by Excel to be able to match all of the information that comes in from the payroll report. We can see, for example, in our credit card information, our first row is for Montrouge, and money was spent on the 1st of February. And if we go into the green table, we can see that that row is in there twice. But the payroll information is different for each row. In one row, it's Gary Madison, but for cost center 20. And in the other row, it's got Gary Madison, but for cost center 10. Now, if you had to do this manually every week or every month, this would take quite a long time, particularly considering how long credit card expenses can be for companies. So how can we do this more quickly? Of course, we can use PowerQuery. So let's have a look. Okay, to connect our data to PowerQuery, then the first thing that we have to do is go to Data, and then go to Get Data, then go to From File, and then from Workbook. PowerQuery then says, okay, which file do you want to connect to? And I'll select this one. And then it says, okay, you've given me the workbook object. Tell me which worksheet object you then want to connect to. Right, we're now in the PowerQuery editor and we've got our credit card information in. Now, a couple of things that we want to do first. We'd like to take away this column at the end, which we don't need. And I'd like to rename this query to credit cards. Right, the next thing we need to do then is connect to our payroll information. So I'll go to New Source, then go to File, and then to Excel. I'll then choose my payroll information. And select the sheet in the payroll information that I want to connect to. Okay, there's our payroll information, and now I just want to change the title of the payroll information. Okay, so from here it's actually really straightforward what we need to do. We need to merge our two queries together. So to do that, on the Home tab, I'll go to the Combine section and then select Merge Queries as New. In the new Merge section, what I want to do is then define to PowerQuery the two tables that we'd like to merge and give PowerQuery the key column in each of those tables, the piece of information which is common in both datasets. So first of all, I'd like to have my credit cards information first. And I'd like to have my credit card information first because that's our base information that we want to bring information into. I'll then choose the reference column, and that's our key column, and then we'll choose the payroll information as our second table. And then I can select the payroll number as the key in this table. I'm going to leave the join kind as it is. The left outer join means that PowerQuery will keep all of the information from the first table, which is credit cards, which is why we wanted the credit card information first, and then it will join in any information that it finds that matches in the second table. Okay, now in our new merge queries, we can see that the information looks more or less the same as the credit cards information, apart from we have a new column on the right-hand side called payroll information. And what we want to do is expand the information in here. We want to tell PowerQuery which columns from that payroll information we would like. So to do that, I'll go to the header payroll information, and then there's a little button on the right-hand side which has two arrows going in opposite directions, and that's our expand button. So let's click that. And then we can tell PowerQuery which columns we'd like. Now I want all of them apart from the payroll number. We've already got that in the credit card information being the reference. I'm also going to unselect the little box at the bottom regarding prefixes, as I don't want the payroll information to be included within the header of each column. And there we go. We now have a new table which has got all the credit card information in it, but has also got all the payroll information in it as well.